The great house at Collinwood, in the strange world of parallel time. A world in which Barnabas Collins and Julia Hoffman must find a way to deal with a woman who is bent upon destroying Collinwood and all who live there. On this night, in a cottage not far from the great house, a part of her evil plan has been enacted by two men. Both men are unaware that they are merely being used as pawns in a scheme that will lead one to jail and the other to the grave.
Ah, very dramatic, Bruno. Now suppose you stand up and take a bow. Bruno, what's the matter? Bruno! Bruno!
Mr. Collins, I hope for your sake that he isn't dead.
Inspector.
Well, what about it, Mr. Collins? Is the man going to be all right, or isn't he?
I don't know.
Suppose we find out. He's dead, Mr. Collins.
He can't be.
But he is. Now, suppose you tell me how it happened.
I don't know. I mean, I can't understand.
You mean you found him like this when you arrived?
No. No, I didn't.
He was alive.
Yes.
And you quarreled with him and killed him.
No,
How did he die, Mr. Collins?
I didn't kill him. I don't know how he died. It's just suddenly he began to choke.
Mr.
I thought it was an act.
A man doesn't just suddenly choke to death for no reason at all.
Now listen to me. I'm telling you that I did not kill this man.
Perhaps you didn't. But the fact is, Mr. Bruno Hess is dead, isn't he? And the further fact is that when I talked to him earlier this evening, he seemed in excellent health.
Inspector Hamilton, listen.
And while we're dealing with facts, Mr. Collins, you were, in fact, angry enough to kill him with your bare hands. You said so yourself.
All right, I admit I was angry. But I am not responsible for this man's death. That's all I can tell you.
I'm sorry, I'm afraid it isn't enough.
Now listen to me.
Mr. Collins, I advise you to listen to me. I'm placing you under arrest. The charge is suspicion of murder.
Murder?
It's my duty to advise you that from this moment on, anything you say may be used as evidence against you. If you wish, you may call your attorney.
You can bet that I want to call.
Mr. Collins, I derive no pleasure from having to do this. I appreciate your position in this matter. For your sake, I hope I'm wrong.
Suspicion of murder? Inspector, I don't believe it.
Maggie, it's all right. I've talked to my lawyer, and they're working on my release.
If your husband is innocent, Mrs. Collins, there's nothing to worry about.
Quentin, I don't know what to say or do to help.
Oh, now there's nothing you or anyone else can do until they determine exactly how Bruno died.
Bruno's dead?
I'm afraid so, Miss Stokes.
I don't believe it. How did it happen?
That's what we intend to find out when we question Mr. Collins.
The inspector thinks I did it.
Oh, no.
Mr. Collins, the charge is only suspicion of murder. I haven't stated flatly that you did it because I don't know. But I did discover you standing over the body.
I don't believe that Quentin could have murdered anyone.
I sincerely hope you're right, Miss Stokes. But you must admit, his position is rather shaky. Shall we be going, Mr. Collins?
Can I have one last request before we go?
Depends what it is.
I'd like to take some things with me if I'm going to be the guest of state overnight. I'd like to go up to my room.
By all means. But I'll have to accompany you. You do understand?
Of course. Don't you want to handcuff me?
I'm assuming, or should I say hoping, that there's no reason why you should try to escape.
I'll be back down in a few minutes.
Maggie, I'm so sorry. I just wish I'd known that he intended to go to the cottage. Quentin was in no frame of mind to face Bruno.
But Maggie, you don't believe that Quentin really did kill Bruno?
Do you? Do you? I don't know. The inspector said that Bruno was alive when Quentin got to the cottage. Now he's dead. It does look very bad for Quentin.
I'll only be a minute, Inspector.
I've plenty of time, Mr. Collins. Are you sure there's nothing else you'd like to tell me? It might be some help to us later on. What about it, Mr. Collins?
No. I have nothing more to say. And even if I did, I'm quite sure that you wouldn't believe a word of it.
Daniel will want to know where you're going.
Yes, I suppose he will.
What'll I tell him?
Just tell him that I've been called away on business.
All right, I will. Why are you looking at me that way?
Just wondering what you think about all of this.
I don't know. It's all happened so suddenly.
Suddenly. I don't think so.
What do you mean?
I'm not sure I know what I mean. I want to think about a lot of things.
Yes, it's the way I feel, too.
Ready when you are, Inspector.
Mr. Collins.
Yes?
You asked your wife what she really thought about all this. That's an odd remark, don't you think?
Is it?
The implication is that she might think you guilty. Do you believe she does?
Why don't you ask her, Inspector?
Perhaps I shall.
Quentin, I came as soon as I heard the news.
Who told you?
Well, Maggie, of course.
Oh.
You look as if that surprises you.
Oh, nothing surprises me anymore, Barnabas.
Quentin, if there's anything I can do, any way I can help.
No. Lawyers have taken care of everything. They're arranging bail for me in the morning.
But that won't be the end of it. There's still a matter of proving your innocence.
You think I'm innocent?
Don't be absurd. Of course I do.
You must have a lot of faith in me, because the inspector's got a very good case against me. When I got to the cottage, Bruno was alive. When the inspector got there, Bruno was dead, and I was standing over the body.
Have you any idea what killed Bruno?
Yes. I think I found the murder weapon just before I left the house.
Tell me.
Bruno was killed by witchcraft. I found a small voodoo doll. Around the doll's neck was a scarf that belonged to Bruno. Someone choked him to death from a distance, someone who knew that I would be with him at that time.
Where did you find these things?
In my wife's dresser.
Maggie.
Obviously, we have been wrong about my dear little wife.
Quentin, you don't believe for a moment that Maggie could be capable of killing anyone.
I'm ready to believe anything, Barnabas. You seem to forget that this is the third time that I have found evidence of witchcraft in that house, and each time it was linked to Maggie.
Quentin, Maggie is not a witch. She loves you very much. Now, are your lawyers sure that they can get you out of here by the morning?
Yes, why?
Well, I'm going to be out of town all day tomorrow, but I want to see you in the evening. If we work together, we will be able to prove who killed Bruno and who's been wrecking your marriage.
All right. I'll be at Collinwood all day and all night tomorrow. I'll see you at your convenience.
Thought you might like to know I just spoke to the coroner, Mr. Collins. He's finished the autopsy. I should have his report within the hour.
Our course was clear, Barnabas. If we had destroyed the body that we found at Stokes's cottage, then Angelique would have been destroyed too. And none of this would have happened. And Quentin wouldn't be in jail now because Bruno would still be alive.
Well, all right, perhaps we were wrong, but there's no point in going over that now.
I know. But if we destroy the body now, then we will be destroying the actual murderer.
And signing Quentin's death warrant.
What are we going to do?
Ironically enough, we can't afford to let anything happen to Alexis. If we're to prove that she killed Bruno, we must keep her alive. I know it's a risk for you, but I want you to stay with her as often as you can and keep me informed about her plans.
Maggie. Have you heard anything from the lawyers?
No, not yet.
Well, I wouldn't worry if I were you. But they're sure to have Quentin home tomorrow at the latest.
Strange as it may sound, I would rather that it took even longer.
Maggie, what are you saying?
Alexis, I need time to think. Cyrus was Quentin's best friend. Even Cyrus thought that Quentin had killed Angelique.
Well, what you must think is that Cyrus is mistaken. Maggie, even though we know Quentin has a bad temper, prone to jealousy, we also know that he loved Angelique. He would never have killed her. Why, if he did that, he could...
He'd what? Nothing. You were about to say that he'd be capable of killing again, weren't you?
No, I wasn't. Why don't we just drop the subject? We must both have faith in Quentin. And we must be true to that faith.
Well, Inspector, let's hear it. What did the coroner have to say?
Bruno Hess died of strangulation. There were marks on his neck indicating where you placed your two hands.
Inspector, I did not kill that man.
There was no other person in the room with him. You were the only suspect possible. You're no longer being held on suspicion, Mr. Collins. The charge is now murder in the first degree.
I want to talk to my lawyer.
If it's about bail, I can save you the trouble. In view of the new charge, Judge MacDonald has refused to grant bail. It appears you're going to be with us for a while, Mr. Collins.
I want to talk to my lawyer anyway. I have that right.
So you do. And you may in just a moment. But first, there's something else you might like to know.
Oh, you're just full of information, aren't you?
Part of my job, Mr. Collins. Well, in the light of this evening's events, we now think it practical to reinvestigate the circumstances of the death of your first wife.
What are you talking about?
We now tend to believe what Dr. Longworth wrote in his journal. But of course, the only way we can verify his opinion is to have your first wife's body exhumed.
Exhumed? Oh, you can't do that.
I'm afraid we can, Mr. Collins.
I won't allow it.
Your consent is not required. It will be done with a court order. That does seem to trouble you. Perhaps you're afraid of what we will find.
Yes. Yes, of course, I understand. Thank you for calling.
Any word from the lawyers?
Yes, they just called to tell me that the bail had been denied.
Denied.
The charge has been changed to murder in the first degree.
Maggie, do you believe he's guilty?
I don't know.
Maggie, you can't afford to have doubts at a time like this. Do the police have the journal now?
Yes, Alexis gave it to them.
Alexis?
Yes, apparently she bought the journal from Bruno and intended to keep it quiet, but Bruno made a photostat copy of it, and that's what he showed the police.
She intended to keep that journal quiet.
Yes. She didn't believe any part of it was accurate, and she tried to protect Quentin. Just the same as Cyrus tried to protect him that night that Angelique died. I just wish that I had as much faith in Quentin as she seems to have.
Maggie, Quentin is innocent. Now, we can help him as long as he cooperates with the authorities and doesn't panic.
Are you sure, Quentin? There's nothing the lawyers can do.
Positive. The judge has a perfect right to refuse bail during a murder case. The denial of bail isn't what bothers me. It's their decision to exhume the body of Angelique.
Yes, I know.
Alexis, what are they going to do when they discover that there is no body to exhume?
They're going to ask us both a lot of questions.
Questions that we can't afford to answer. If I tell them that Cyrus and I destroyed the body, they're going to demand to know why. This whole situation is hopeless.
No, Quentin. It's only hopeless as long as you're here in this jail.
What are you talking about?
You must get out of here. It's the only way you can prove that you're innocent.
I've tried to get out. I can't.
There is one other way.
Escape?
Yes.
Please don't be absurd.
Quentin, listen to me. I know what you told me about finding the doll and the ascot in Maggie's drawer. But she's being used, just as you are. There's some kind of a vicious plot against you, and you're both pawns in that plot. Now, you've got to get out of here. There's only one way for you to find out who's behind this and clear your own name. You must be free, Quentin. Free to solve Bruno's murder as well as Angelique's. It is the only way. And I am willing to do everything I can to help you.
No, I don't want you to trouble Judge MacDonald again tonight. This can wait till morning. How long will it take to get the order to exhume the body? Good. I want to make all the necessary arrangements at the cemetery. I'll call you back.